Hello, everybody. Happy Ash Wednesday. We are actually recording this on Fat Tuesday, but this will be aired on Ash Wednesday. I timed that on purpose. And of course, normally on Wednesdays, we have our Magdalene drop. We're doing the woman with the alabaster jar right now. That is the next installment is going to be postponed until next week because of Ash Wednesday. And we are going to be talking a little bit about Magdalene too. I am joined, before we get into the subject at hand, I am joined here with my friends Angie and Nicole, who both have a channel. So before we get into it, let me just go ahead and show their channels to make sure you guys are subscribed. So Angie is the Fickle Pickle. She's got her pickle business, and she's got all of her. I love it. I said before we started recording, I'm with two Southern women today, so I'm so excited. So this is Angie's channel. Go ahead and please subscribe to Angie. She's hysterical. Yeah, I know you guys love Angie, and she's just gotten back from her Mardi Gras celebration. So, and then we've got Nicole LeBlanc here with her channel as well. Please go ahead and subscribe to Nicole. She's got some great information as we go forth into this even further into this great awakening, which we know is purely spiritual. It's information war, but really at the end of the day, that information comes down to spiritual choices that we as individuals have to make. And, what we're going to talk about today, a lot of ways, I feel like, as Shanti on Aquarius Rising says, it's the drama of it all. But it's important, but it's also really not important at the same time, because we're going to be talking about this. Intention is always everything. And I know we were chatting before we hit record, all of these holidays that we speak about, we don't want you guys to give up these holidays. If you enjoy these holidays, I know Nicole is from New Orleans, Louisiana area. So Mardi Gras was a big deal to you, wasn't it, growing up?
Yeah, I mean, it's part of life. And as we speak, everyone is off of school because everyone gets Fat Tuesday and Ash Wednesday. They usually get the week. It depends on where it falls. They usually get 3 days to celebrate Mardi Gras because it's such a part of the culture. It doesn't matter. I mean, it's really a Catholic rich environment. And so you have to kind of look hard to find someone who's not Catholic, but even if they're not, they get the holiday too, and they get the Mardi Gras spirit. It's contagious.
And that's what we said, Angie and I said our last episode, and I'll put that down in the description box below, guys, and I will also once again put the deep dives I did a couple of years ago into like Dionysus and that kind of stuff as well. But Angie and I were talking about that last week, because Angie and I are on what we'll say the original 13 colony side, if that's even true. But just for the sake, most people, we're from Georgia. I'm originally from South Carolina. And we were talking about that last week. Historically, what they tell us, whether it's true or not, is that New Orleans, so the three sisters of the South, again, are Charleston, Savannah, and New Orleans. My mom's family is from Charleston. That's where I spent most of my childhood as a kid, going to the Low Country, where there's also hoodoo and voodoo and all that stuff as well. That we just a little more quiet in South Carolina than they do in New Orleans. But Charleston is the beautiful sister. Savannah is considered the dirty or ugly sister. I think I love Savannah. Listen, I love me a good trip to Savannah. Savannah's fun. And New Orleans is the wicked sister, because we know there's so much magic in Savannah or in New Orleans, and that's what I love. I don't see New Orleans as being wicked. I see it as being I actually believe that New Orleans is Alexandria. But with that being said, the history we've been given, so people kind of understand what Nicole is saying about it being richly Catholic. Where Angie and I grew up, it's richly Protestant.
Yeah.
And that's a big deal here. And I know that sounds silly in the world that we're walking into, because most people don't give a shit anymore, honestly. Even in a secular world, most people don't care. But historically speaking, culturally speaking, the kind of the grudge against the Catholics and the Protestants has been a big thing down here in the South. I know New Orleans, they tell us that it's originally was a French territory, then it went Spanish, then it went back to the French before it was sold to the United States. Well, I know for myself, there's a French quarter in Charleston as well. And those were the Huguenots, though. Those were, what's a Huguenot? It's a French Protestant. So just a little back, my name, Brice, my first name is actually my mother's maiden name, which is a big thing to do in the South, but it's spelled with an I. So it's actually Brice, now we live in an English speaking country, so for many generations it was turned to Brice, but the Brices were French Huguenots. So I have a lot of French in my heritage as well, coming from the Protestant side. So that's why they ended up in as they tell us in the history books, if it's even accurate or not, that's why they ended up on the Atlantic side and not in the Gulf of Mexico, which is where New Orleans is located. And Angie, you're pretty much the Protestant side. Even though you celebrate Mardi Gras with your friends, you didn't grow up with it, did you?
No. And yesterday, whenever I was up in North Georgia celebrating Mardi Gras, riding around, I wrote this down too. I saw a Huguenot lane on the lake.
There you go. And I know our French people are like, it's not Huguenot, but listen, honey, we're in the South. That's how we say it down here.
Huguenot.
Huguenot. You go down the South. So my dad's mom, my grandmother Mary Ann, who was the coolest of coolest ladies because she's no longer with us in body. But she, she was like hiding, like I always say, guys, she was hiding books on reincarnation under her bed for my granddad. Like she was a free spirit. We'll say it that way. She was a free spirit. And she grew up in South Georgia, in a little town called Quitman. I know that Angie knows it's near Valdosta, which is near the Florida Georgia border. But it's her family came up through New Orleans as well, and she was very proud of that. Her last name, I won't say her last name because I don't want to dox any of my extended family who is not on YouTube. But the way we said her maiden name was a very English way, like you say my name, very English in an English way now. But the way it's spelled is very French, and so she had a lot of French coming up through her line as well, and so. A lot of people that are heretically from heretically, that sounded bad. His heritage of Southern do have ties to one of those three major cities, either Charleston, Savannah, or New Orleans.
Well, my last name is LeBlanc, and I say French, and everyone wants to put that C on there where you hear the pronunciation of it, but it just goes away like a lot of French words.
Yeah.
The last three letters just kind of go off to have a party by themselves.
I laugh. I used to say that in high school. I had to take both Spanish and French in high school. And my mother is pretty good with French. Like she still can speak it pretty well. And one of my aunts can like flat out say she remembers all the French poems and stuff. And I'd be like, but Mom, you don't say half the word. I'm so confused. It just kind of
which whenever you get used to hearing it, it does make it a very, a melody, a language that has a melody because it goes into one another. So my family are all Cajuns, and so it's broken French and English because most of them had no formal education coming up. They were put into the fields to work sugarcane and cotton and tobacco, just like all the other people that didn't have anything. They were very, very poor people, and that is why. All of our dishes are cooked in one pot because they had one pot to cook out of. It's not because they had a whole array of cutlery. They had one good knife. And I can tell you right now, to this day, my mother has one good knife. That's an exaggeration. She's got a bunch of knives. But in her day to day, she's got one good knife.
One good knife.
That she takes care of. And she's got that one pot that she will kill you for. Do not put your hand on her one good pot. She's, so there's a lot of just cultural things that come from having nothing and developing a culture around that. And a lot of people say, how hungry was the first person that ate a crawfish, And so we laugh about it all the time.
Mud bug.
Yeah, we laugh about it all the time because I literally had crawfish pond in the back 3 acres of my parents' property growing up, and I'd get off the school bus and put my hip boots on and go run the crawfish traps, and it was so normal for me, for people to question it. I was like, but they're so good. I never questioned it. They're so good. And I think it's ingenious that people that were starving and had to live off the land because they really only got a portion of the crops that they tended to. So if you're working a tobacco farm, you can't eat that. No. So a lot of people had to survive on what they could find. And now today, it's not a mystery to me why Mardi Gras, Cajun, New Orleans culture is around the world because we have made it so damn good.
Yeah. And I will say, I did a New Orleans, I have a Savannah playlist and a New Orleans playlist. Surprisingly, I don't have a Charleston playlist, which I probably should. I think I'm just so bored of the Charleston stories because that's where I kind of grew up that I'm like, wait, let's talk about, I want to study stuff that I didn't grow up with. But I will say, I will put that down. And I know when I was studying, and I believe, in my opinion, from the Tartarian stuff, that Canada is actually Gaul. Like sorry for our friends in France right now. You have a great country, but that's not the real France. According to what I always said, the real France is Canada. And they talk about, so the Acadians, I think is how they called themselves up in Canada. They were coming from France. They tell us, this is the story they tell us. I don't think that this is accurate, but the wars of religions that were happening in France during this time, these were French people that wanted to stay Catholic, and so they went to what we call Canada now, and that's where we get the French Canadians in the area of France. But then after some wars happened, they actually displaced a lot of the we'll say the white people, the Acadians, and they kind of got pushed into slavery all over the world, and then some of them were just dumped in Louisiana, which at that point was very inhospitable. That's the thing about the South too. It's not just Louisiana, it's all across the Southeast. That's why I think the Southeast is so magical in a lot of ways. In Louisiana, you call them bayous. In Georgia, we call them swamps. Same thing. They're the same thing. And it's a very inhospitable, can be a very inhospitable place to live. It's hot as balls down here. My favorite Southern saying, which I'll never give up, is I'm sweating more than a whore in church. I will say that into the new timeline too, because that is, when you hear a Southern woman said, Lord, I'm sweating more than a whore in church, it is the funniest thing when you see an 80-year-old woman say that. Because it's hot. It's so, the weather is inhospitable, and we learn a lot. Like, I learned a lot really studying the voodoo faith, which is really big in the South. We think about it big in New Orleans, but it's all over the South. It's all over the South is the voodoo faith. And like most things, it's been inverted. And what we see in Hollywood isn't necessarily the truth of what it really is. And we know that the voodoo practitioners were able to work in the bayous and the swamps and not be bothered by the alligators, because they were able to be one with nature. They were able to find that calmness and be able to lean into nature, which is how people survived in the South anyway. I mean,
have I ever told you about my dad? My dad had a pet alligator for like 21 years or so, like 20, until the game wardens killed him. But and people would talk about him all the time. They're like, I was at dinner with a fancy dinner with a group of girls, and I knew some of them and didn't know some of them. And they found out, like, one of the girls is from Bostwick, Georgia, where my parents live. And one of the girls at the table said, well, what do you do out in Bostwick? There's just nothing there. And she says, well, on Fridays we go down Wagner Mill Road and there's this man. And I'm like, let me go under the table. They're like, there's this man, and he comes out and he wears a flannel shirt that's cut off at the sleeves, and he's barefoot, and he just gets right on in that lake with that alligator.
You're like,
swims with him. I was like, that's my dad.
You're who's the guy from Australia that Steve Irwin? Your dad's like the Steve Irwin of the South. Well, it's true. And I think that's true for a lot of Southerners. When I look back and I've always wondered this, I've always wondered, even as a kid, I wondered this, like, these white settlers from Northern Europe landed in Georgia, South Carolina in their petticoats and jackets. And they kept their petticoats and jackets on in this fucking heat. Like, no way. That something's not. When the locals, the natives, and I say that loosely because I don't even know what the natives are anymore, were wearing loincloths. Why didn't they go, you know what, that's a really good idea. They obviously understand that this heat is intense and we have to maybe shed some of this clothes, And so there's a lot of questions. But just so our viewers understand, like, that's what we talk about. That's why Nicole said richly Catholic. Especially for our viewers who are not from the United States or not from the Southeast, that's a big deal as to why Angie and I never celebrated Mardi Gras. We did not get Mardi Gras or Ash Wednesday off of school because no one I grew up with was Catholic. They were all Baptists or Presbyterians. a few Methodists in there. All that, the book to Kill a
Those
Mockingbird.
Methodists, they're good people.
Those Methodists, I remember To Kill a Mockingbird. We read that in school many times. When I was a little kid, my mother would play the movie for us with Gregory Peck, and my favorite, some of my favorite. There's some really great lines where Scout, the little girl, is talking about how her family was different because they were Methodist. Everybody else was Baptist. It's when people often ask me, I always think about that line. Like, I'm really big now calling Yahshua. And I always think of that line in To Kill a Mockingbird where the kids call their dad Atticus. They don't call him dad. And the little boy's like, why you call your daddy Atticus? And Scout goes, because that's his name. And that's what I'm talking about. When people say, why are you using Joshua? Because that's his name. That's his name. How you call your daddy Atticus? But
real quick, I'm going to say, if you see true Cajun people, it reminds me of the truth of Joshua, because number one, I'm the lightest one in my family. Most people are very dark skinned. And we're mixed with all sorts of wonderful, heritages. And we mostly have dark hair, and we mostly have light eyes. And that tends to work really well in a place where you're, 100% humidity and 100 degrees. Because we're not burning all the time, we're tanning, and we go through shades of brown. We're just like the other brown people that don't. And I've always said that, even growing up, I'm like, there's not a box on this form when I have to put my origin, because it's not listed. But I'm like, all these things, like.
Do you know, that's so funny, Nicole, that you bring that up, because I tan very well. Like, I tan very well. And my mother does as well. And I'm looking back, I'm like, well, yeah, there's some French heritage there. And the skin, I was like, well, maybe it's because we've just for generations been outside, our skin's adapted. But I've had many ex-boyfriends get very jealous because I'll spend like 5 minutes outside and I come back and I've changed races.
Yeah.
My hair gets lighter though. But yeah. So it is like the South, I always feel like the Southeast is, if you're going to write a story, Song of the South, you're going to write a story about the South. The South itself is its own character. Like, the land itself has its own personality. And it kind of reminds me of a Faulkner book, which Faulkner lived in New Orleans for a while. William Faulkner, he's one of my favorite Southern writers. The Unvanquished is a brilliant book. And so, Southerners all kind of band together against the world, but within the Southern community, there are opposing cultures. And again, the Catholics. So I just want to make that very clear. Yes, in New Orleans, but we don't, in the Protestant world, we don't celebrate Lent. We don't do Lent. We don't do any of that. We do Easter, but we don't do Lent. And so I want to start with that, if you ladies don't mind, talking about why Ash Wednesday is what it is, and leading up to Easter, Ishtar, which we're going to get into, and then go back to Fat Tuesday so people can understand kind of the evolution of this holiday. And listen, Mardi Gras, in my opinion, looks fun as hell. Like, as long as you're not hurting anyone, like, go take your shirt off, get your beads, like, you have fun, like, you drink with your friends, have all the fun you want, because that, as Angie and I said last week in our episode, the Victor Hugo quote, to love another person is to see the face of God. And so if you're in an act of laughter and loving, you're not doing anything wrong.
Yeah, and it's high vibration. Love, gratitude, and laughing is the best thing you can do to raise your vibes.
Yeah. So let's start.
I just had the best time. I feel like my voice is so deep right now from like laughing so much for 3 days, 3 full on days of just laughing.
You gotta pace yourself when you're at Mardi Gras.
Yeah, I led the parade, y'all. I got to lead the parade last minute. A fire baton.
You were spitting fire?
I tried, but I burnt my my outfit that I was wearing, and so they took it from me. But
Angie's a fire hazard. Someone gets a fire from Angie.
but that's awesome, right? And that's what, like, I mean,
Someone bring in the fake flames for Angie.
I remember when I was growing up in church, on Christmas Eve, we talked before we started filming, we were talking about Christmas, so many people are like, I'm not celebrating Christmas. Why not? Christmas is fun as hell. As long as you're not doing anything to hurt anyone and you're not, doing the rituals that are nefarious, then I'm trying to be careful what we say because we're on YouTube. You guys know what I'm talking about. Go decorate that tree. Go hang your baby's first ornament up. Do Santa Claus. Make the cookies. It's fun. Drink the eggnog. There's laughter. There's memories being created. Like,
it's your intention. It's your intention of the holiday, of the day. It's just like your intention any random Wednesday of the week. It's about your intention.
Yeah. It's all about that. And it makes me so sad when I see so many people who've gotten so vigilante and just mean. Just fucking mean. That's what I had. So in the South too, and the East Coast of American culture, we have this animosity or this rivalry, the Yankees and the Southerners. So for those who are not from America, Yankees are specifically people from the Northeast. I know people from all over the world call us all Yankees. No. Those are people from the Northeast, not anybody else. And my grandfather, my mom's dad, his mother was from Philadelphia. We don't know much about that side of the family because they were Yankees. They won't tell us much about. So if your last name is Stafford and you're from Philadelphia, hi, I'm your cousin. Well, my mama would talk about her grandmamas growing up, that she had her grandmama, who she's named after, on my Alice, and then she had Lula, who was her mother's mother. And she loved her grandmama Lula because Lula was a Southern old lady and she just was so sweet. She remembers Lula just cuddling them. But her dad's mom, Alice, was mean. And my mom goes, I think it's because she was a Yankee.
She was Yankee.
She might have just been mean, Mom. She was mean. But anyway. So when we talk about, now this too, I had somebody making comments about the evil eye that I wear. And I always want to say, now, as much as I have disdain for the Bible because it's been super edited, there are some really good verses in there. And one of them is, judge not, lest ye be judged. And that's a pretty good rule to live by, right? Judge not, lest ye be judged. This is evil eye is not the Illuminati eye. It's from the Eastern Europe, so the Turkish, Croatian culture, and it wards off evil spells. Now, this is one thing that terrifies me the most about this community we're in, is that there are people that are in this community, not the people watching this. Most of our viewers we're preaching to the choir. They are so bloodthirsty. These truthers are so bloodthirsty, and so that it scares me. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are more violent than the freaking controllers. Like, this is scary.
Yeah, I said that the other day. Somebody said something about the balloon, the UFO BS or whatever. And I said, I'm really more worried about the people in DC than anything that anybody in the other country might think about doing.
Yeah.
I trust them more, and that's saying something.
Right.
Yeah. We know that 90% of now I'm going to say this. I know we know 90% of the community we're in is infiltrators. We know that. It's once you see it, you really can't unsee it. It's pretty, and fair play to the other side for doing that, for paying people and prepping them to come in and dissuade people. Like, of course, that's what evil people are going to do, right? That's what there's going to
be. Playbook.
Yeah, it's playbook. So I understand there are people out there that are pushing the fundamentalist narrative because Christianity is a form of Satanism. It is. And so there's a lot of violence there. If you are worshiping a God that requires blood rituals, like sacrificing the person you call Jesus, you might not be worshiping the God of source of love, because the true God is the only thing that can create. And so why would the true God need a blood ritual if he can create? That you're worshiping Lucifer at that point. Lucifer is the one that, and we're going to talk about that, you guys, because we know that Yeshua, the real Yeshua, was never crucified.
Right.
All right. So let's talk about where we get the resurrection and all that from. We get it from two people named Tammuz and Ishtar. Now, we also know that the real Yeshua was Egyptian, wherever that was in the world, whether that was in Africa or here in Georgia, whoever, or on another planet, who knows at this point, but he was Egyptian. So, but get this. So let me tell you a little bit about Tammuz. Tammuz was born in Bethlehem. He was a shepherd who tended to the souls in the afterlife. Sound familiar? Wore a crown of thorns. Tammuz did. Annually sacrificed for the salvation of mankind. He also was connected to the rulers of Egypt at that point. He was died. He was died. Great grammar there. He died and was resurrected.
I'm thinking, what color was he? They dyed him.
I know they dyed him. He was blue. No, he died and was resurrected, and he was considered the only begotten son. Tammuz was also known to be a healer. He healed people. So I put in my notes here, the church manipulated the Tammuz story, either A, to show us the truth, or B, to confuse us on the true teachings of Christ. Now, with this being said, I'm not saying Tammuz was bad, and we're going to get into that.
Yeah.
So Ezekiel 8:14, this is actually in the Bible, because they have to tell you the truth at some point. I'm going to read you the verse, Ezekiel 8:14. Then he brought me to the door of the gate of the Lord's house, which was towards the north. And behold, there sat women weeping for Tammuz. So this Tammuz culture was really big all over the Fertile Crescent, from Egypt to wherever the Fertile Crescent was, wherever that this was a huge story. So let's talk about the death of Tammuz. So Tammuz was 40 years old, and he was out hunting wild boar, and he ended up being killed by a wild boar. How many days is Lent?
40?
40 days. After he died, his mother demanded that the people fast for 40 days in honor of Tammuz. And now they would mark houses with a T. What do you get marked on your head at Lent?
A T.
Ashes and the sign of a cross, which is a T.
Which is a T.
It's T.
So the cross that Christians wear, this is why I say judge not, lest ye be judged. The cross Christians wear has nothing to do with Yeshua. It's the mark of Tammuz.
Yeah.
Which is totally fine, because we're going to talk about Yahshua and Magdalene and their relationship with Tammuz and Ishtar too. But you just have to understand, you can't go around calling some cultures evil eyes to ward off evil spells evil when you're wearing a damn cross and you think it's not, and you don't know what that actually means. It's about
not just wearing it, shoving it in people's faces, and then proclaiming that it means something it doesn't.
That does, yeah. No one's lied about this. This has been very honest that this is to ward off evil spells. But you've been lied to about the cross. And if you look I saw a picture of inside of some Freemason temples, which women technically aren't allowed to be in, but there are pictures. They have the 3 crosses up too.
Mm-hmm.
You know that the Freemasons are satanic. They worship human sacrifice. So where has this been manipulated? Well, all right. So again, 40 days of Lent. Ash Wednesday is the mark of Tammuz. Now, I'm a vegetarian. I've been a vegetarian for a very long time. But what is traditionally served on Easter? What meat?
We do ham.
Ham. So, what animal killed Tammuz?
Ham.
Oh, yeah.
A big pig.
A big pig. So that's what you're eating on Easter. That's on purpose, because that's a celebration of Tammuz. Now let's talk about Ishtar. So we talk about twin flames. What are twin flames? Twin flames, well, there's many different theories. The 2 biggest theories are twin flames are the soul decides to incarnate into 2 different bodies, but it's a full soul, feminine and masculine. Other people say the soul splits and becomes feminine and masculine. Regardless, it's the same soul. Whether it's a whole soul, it's the same soul, a divine feminine and a divine masculine. I do understand there are cases where it's 2 women or 2 men who are in homosexual relationships, totally fine by me. Whatever. It's just 2 people that are the same soul. So like Magdalene and Yahshua were twin flames, Tammuz also had a twin flame. Her name was Ishtar. All right. So Ishtar is considered to be the mother of the Anunnaki. So it just
gets better and better. And
it's true. I mean, imagine they told this is Vacation Bible School.
I know I'm sitting here like that was never told to me when I was growing up. That
No,
was
never.
never told to me.
Screw walking on water. This is where it's real juicy. Okay. So Ishtar is considered the mother of the Anunnaki. Or who are the Anunnaki? If we go back to Atlantis, they are holders of if I can speak, 12 real tribes of Israel, which are galactic. So we talked about this a lot with the Emerald Tablets. The Anunnaki, the giants. So who Mardi Gras is about Dionysus, who was a giant, an Anunnaki. Some were good, some were bad, just like human beings. I'm finding that with all types of species. It's free will choice. Doesn't matter if you're born a Draco or a human or a Palladian or a Lyran. It is your choice whether we know that there are some Draco that are good, that have gone good. It's your choice. That's the freedom that Creator gives us.
Yeah.
So she was also the goddess of love, fertility, and war. Now, war is either good or bad. It can be used by both. It's like the planet Mars. Mars is the warring planet, which is Tuesday. It's the day of Mars. We're filming this on a Tuesday. Mr. T has a lot of Mars in his chart. He's using it for good. I don't know about Hillary Clinton, but she had Mars in her chart. So you guys see how this is like, these are just tools.
All about intentions.
It's all about intention. Yes. So when Tammuz dies, he gets sent down to the underworld. Now, we looked at this story in great detail in The Return of the Divine Sophia. What is the underworld? Planet Earth is considered the underworld.
Right where we are.
Right where we are. And sometimes, I will say, I remember when my great granddaddy Paul was still alive as a little kid down in Quitman, Georgia. We'd have to go. He had an old plantation. They lived on it. It's a dairy farm. And those gnats. And I remember being so hot, and with those gnats in your eyes. That to me is the pits of hell. So that makes sense to me. Yeah, it totally makes sense. So Tammuz now has to come down to Earth. And this is a huge story. I'm just gonna do the Cliff Notes version of the story for you guys, or else this would be like a 5-hour video. So Ishtar decides that she's gonna go down to the underworld or Earth to get Tammuz. It's her other half. And so she goes through the 7 gates, giving up something at every gate. This is considered the journey of no return. All right. Once she's in the underworld, she herself becomes enslaved. We all become enslaved. And what happens at each gate, you're giving up something. Now in her story, it's metaphor. She's giving up clothes. It's amnesia. Mm-hmm. You're coming through and you're forgetting. So she comes into the underworld, and she knows there's someone she's looking for. She finds him, but he's forgotten who she is, but there's a recognition. Kind of like when you meet people in this world and you know them.
Yeah.
But you don't know how you know them. Because you've gone through the 7 gates. And a lot of us, according to the law of one, and I believe this, a lot of us here on the earth right now volunteered, like Ishtar did, volunteered to come. We didn't have to come back down. We volunteered to come back down. Like fucking dumbasses. No, I'm just kidding. What were we thinking? But we volunteer. So, and I do kind of feel like because there's volunteer, Tammuz did not volunteer. He was killed and sent down. But because Ishtar volunteered, there was still a little bit of memory she held on to. There was a conscious choice here, right? Anyway, she goes through all of this stuff where they end up coming back. They end up resurrecting. Yeah? So what is the celebration of Easter?
The resurrection.
The
resurrection. Where they go back into the heavenly worlds, right? And you could, guys, again, this is a very long story. There's the poem of the poem of Ishtar and Tammuz. Ishtar is also considered the queen of heaven with Tammuz as her consort. And so now this is what, and this was all through Sumerian culture, Egyptian culture. In fact, one of the first females to ever write down a recorded story was the story of Tammuz and Ishtar. She was a priestess of Ishtar. And she's actually one of the first named authors in the world. And Houdina, I don't know if I'm saying her name right. And she wrote the exaltation of Ishtar. And I also wrote here Ishtar's brother is Gilgamesh,
Okay.
who is also Anunnaki, a giant. And allegedly is the reason why we went to war in Iran, is because they found Gilgamesh, who has been in stasis. So this is very fascinating. And so now let's talk about Yahshua and Magdalene. So I found this to be absolutely hysterical. And I thought, wow, this makes way more sense. And if I were a human being living in Magdalene and Yahshua's time, especially if I were a man, I would totally be down for this holiday. So the whole story of going into the underworld and being resurrected again is really big metaphor of us. We come to earth, we come back, we go up and down. But we talk about the shadow work. We also have to go into our own underworld. Like as Magdalene says in her gospel, we have to descend before we can then ascend. Right. We have to drop down before we can come back up again. That's going all the way down. And you guys remember from the Emerald Tablets, they talk about the chakra system. They start at the top though and work down. Usually they work up from the bottom, and I thought, interesting. They started from the top and went down to come back up again. So what they would do every year, now the Essenes, which Magdalene and Yahshua were in Essene, so that's Isis, E-S-S-E is how Isis was spelled back then. So the Essenes, Tennessee, which is the country of Isis.
I was just thinking when you even mentioned volunteer, listen,
my dad's dad was from Knoxville, Tennessee. He went to the University of Tennessee, and he pushed us to be a volunteer to go to the that's their mascot. Yeah. None of us went to Tennessee. None of my cousins. No. But yeah, so Tennessee. So what they would do every single year. In the Christian world, we have the Passion plays, right? Where we reenact the death of Jesus, the resurrection. They would kind of do the same thing, but it was Tammuz and Ishtar. So what they would do, this cracks me up because I'm like, I see what the controllers did. They took some of the truth and they twisted it and made it into with a Mithra story and created a Jesus story. Mm-hmm. They would reenact. So the high priests and priestesses of Isis, of the Illicit Mysteries, they would reenact this story every single year around the springtime. The springtime notoriously is also the start of the new year, right, which makes sense because the earth is being reborn again. Mm-hmm. So the men folk, the messiahs, because a messiah means a phallical penis or a pillar, a penis. So Yahshua is nobody's messiah but Magdalene's. Okay, your husband is your other half. Maybe not even your husband, your twin, your other half is your Messiah. If you're a female, if you're the female energy, you're the Visca Pisces. This is how they would write it on their wedding invitations, whatever those looked like back then. And so the Messiahs, not just Yahshua, but all the men in this high order would go into tombs. A man cave?
Yeah.
Basically drink, in my mind, they're drinking beer, playing poker for 3 days.
Yeah.
Hanging out, and then 3 days later, their Visca Pisces, their women folk, would come and get them out of the cave. Because the story was Tammuz dropped into the underworld, Ishtar made the choice to come get him, and then resurrect together. So in the story we hear in church, who was the first person to go to the tomb? Magdalene. Why is that? That was not she knew he was alive. No one died. They were reenacting shit. But it was a reenactment. And
she went to get her Messiah.
Let's go. Listen.
3 days was long enough. Let's go.
She's like, we got 5 children. She's like, listen, you've been drinking beer, playing poker long enough. We got 5 kids. You got to come home and help me now. So.
I don't care if your head hurts. Get out of that man cave.
I don't care if you got a headache. You got a migraine. Little baby over here needs his daddy, and I need to go to the spa because 3 days is too long, and so that's the story. And so in saying that, when we celebrate Easter was always my least favorite holiday, and I'll tell you guys why. Usually by the time Easter rolled around down here in Deep South, it was already hot as fuck, and we would have to put these Easter dresses on with Easter hats on and stockings and take pictures and go outside and hunt Easter eggs. I was miserable. I hated Easter so much. It would smell, just the heat, the humidity smells sometimes. It gives a smell. And I don't care. We would be at the country club, the finest of the finest, but it would be hot and stinky and muggy. And we'd have to smile with our hats on and our baskets.
Miserable.
with like 20 other kids and like polyester suits, and while the parents like, y'all get together, smile. Oh no, Johnny wasn't looking, get back together. It was, I hated it so much. And like the Easter Bunny, I mean, we would get some little toys from the Easter Bunny, but it was mostly just candy. Santa was way better. Santa was way better. So in all of that, all of the celebrations of Easter, the egg coloring, the bunnies, all that that's all about new life. So that's Ishtar, and Ishtar is the goddess of fertility as well. So this is not something that you need to give up. If you want to practice Lent, and I know a lot of times for you give something up, am I correct? Like you make a sacrifice, like sugar, coffee, something like that.
Yeah, a lot of people stop drinking, or they give up chocolate, or they like whatever. Mainly people say, well, you got to give something that's going to really affect you. Like really want to feel it. You want to
sacrifice.
Yeah, you want to be like, gosh, like it's a penance. It's another thing, in the Catholicism. They want you to suffer. Whatever it is that wants you, makes you feel like you're suffering for 40 days. That's what they want you to give up for Lent.
I can. If you're a young child, just tell your parents you want to give up broccoli.
Yeah.
Give up for Lent. So I remember asking my mom that once when I was a kid, like why? Because we would study about Mardi Gras in class, in lower school, elementary school, but we never, tell. And mom would be like, why don't we do Mardi Gras and Lent? And mom would say, well, Jesus already sacrificed. We don't need to sacrifice. Well, no. Well, let me talk about the fasting too, because we're doing fasting in the Shadow Work Challenge. We're in the middle of it's coming up. And you don't have to do it. I want to make that very clear with everything in the Shadow Work Challenge. I mean, we're not running a cult here. Like you have free will choice with everything. I've said that there's a lot of things to do during the day. I wrote the challenge with the full awareness that might not be able to do everything, and that's totally fine. It's your experience. But when we fast, like in spirituality, which is what Yeshua and Magdalene really practiced, and these Buddha, whatever these ascended masters will call them. It was a spiritual. There was no penance. There was no, because being here. I mean, from the Ishtar to Mu story, this is the underworld. This is hell. This is it. You're signing up for a life where there's naturally going to be suffering, and suffering is real, and that's how you find the friction. Right. But with fasting or giving something up, there's usually a spiritual purpose and the true spiritual work behind it, where you are actually looking for something deeper in yourself. Like I know Shanti wrote for the fasting portion of our Shadow Work Challenge, the big hunger versus the little hunger. Like, what are you really hungry for? What is it really that's bothering you? Because food is just food, so let's look beyond that. So if you are fasting or giving up sugar or giving up coffee or something, don't do it as a penance. Do it as something to better yourself, to deeper, so that you can move away distractions or chemical distractions, so you can go deeper with it. I really want to make that clear. Like our God, the God that we worship, Source, doesn't want you to be in any more pain than you have to be in. You already signed up for some hard lessons coming into this world.
Catholicism is just wrought in shame, blame, guilt. Like that's their biggest motivator, right? And I remember I was probably in second grade, and it was during Lent, and I had given up chocolate, and I had a friend that came over, and there was some candies or something in the cabinet, and we were sitting in the middle of the living room going through these chocolate candies, and then just in a matter of conversation, she's like, oh, what'd you give up for Lent? And it dawned on me that I had given up chocolate. I had been sitting there eating chocolate, and I busted out crying because I was like, I felt so much immediate guilt, because that's the culture, like you cannot cheat. You cannot have what you gave up.
Repent, child, repent.
Yes. And I'm like, I ran to my mom. I'm like, do I need to make myself throw up? And now I think about that part of me that was at second grade was already so mind warped, because the truth was withheld and it was made into something it shouldn't have been. In second grade, I was already like, I need to throw up the chocolate I ate, because it gave me so much blame, shame, guilt. And I'm like, today, I'm like, that's just so Catholic.
Yeah. And I don't have children, but if I don't know if I would let my kids do something like that, just because I would, babies are just babies. They need to be able to play and eat chocolate. But that's what we're conditioned to be like, right? It's like given.
It was.
I mean, what was, there was a comedian. I was watching a stand-up. A guy, I can't remember the same guy from the South. And he talks about how like one summer he got baptized 20 times because he would
Yeah.
just like mess up and he'd be like, "Dunk me again, Pastor." You
Yeah.
know?
I know people that have done that. I do. I know people that have that just didn't feel like it was real the first time. This morning I was looking at Ash Wednesday and that kind of thing, and nobody responded to my tweet. I just pulled it up, but I tweeted, "I don't know about you, boo, but I don't want a priest wiping ashes on my forehead and telling me, remember that you are dust, and to dust you shall return." That was one of the things I said. It said that the priest would do it and say this. I mean, I don't know that that's all true, but nobody responded.
So in order for people that are, working or whatever it is to be able to be compliant with Ash Wednesday, they have, the priest and stuff will be out in the parking lot. You can do drive-through Ash Wednesday. I'm not even lying. And so people will take their lunch break and then they come back and they got their smudge on their forehead. Yes. And so as I was waking up, I was and a lot of the healthcare system is controlled by Catholic organizations, right? And especially here. And so they would like the leadership would come around and they're like, with the you can go down to the chapel and get your ashes. And I'm like, no, I'm good. And so then of course people were like, well, where's your ashes, right? Because it's just accepted that everyone here is Catholic, and I'm like, I don't participate in putting someone's like symbology of dead ashes on my forehead. Yeah. I'm not doing that.
The point of the Tammuz and Ishtar story is the resurrection of both of them, is the fact that they came to human, and humaning is hard, and they figured it out. They worked on their shit, and so it's So and with that being said, with Lent, you're giving something up. You're going into this penance. So then let's flip back now to Mardi Gras, because Mardi Gras is like, I just love the word debauchery because it's just fun debauchery, and like today's Fat Tuesday, so
the feast before Ash Wednesday.
So it's like, I know we got some ladies, maybe some men watching who have gone to Jenny Craig a few times and gone to Weight Watchers a few times. And I know my mama went a lot when I was a kid, and I would go to those meetings with her. And every eve before going to Weight Watchers the next day, my mama would be like, we're going out and we're going to have a big old meal. So it's kind of the same thing, isn't it? It's like the blast shebang before.
Yeah. So, the story that gets told anyway is that everyone revels. They are reveling in that time, and that's where you get the revelry of Mardi Gras. And it starts about 2 weeks before Ash Wednesday. And so, and people have their different little subculture parades, so you have Bacchus and you have Endymion. Endymion is the big one for like the medical science community and whatever. And so they have all the little neighborhood parades, which are huge now. And it all gets more and more grand and more and more grand. And you have a ball. Every parade has a ball. And so everyone gets king and queen of the whatever parade of Bacchus or Endymion or whatever. And they are there the whole time, blessing everyone, and everyone is bowing down to them, just like any other royalty, whatever. And as it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, it gets longer and longer and longer. And so you're partying from morning until night and morning until night, morning until night. And the big thing is that you feast because you're going to have to do without for 40 days. So you're filling yourself with all the wine and daiquiris and food and everything, so that because for 40 days you're going to have to walk the straight and narrow and give up all the things that you've been sinning with.
I'm saying, and I laugh because Angie was crowned queen a few years back when in her little Mardi Gras thing, and I'm laughing and I'm thinking, the God that I know is a fun source energy, and Maggie is so. I'm obviously right now I'm way closer to Magdalene than Yahshua. She's fun, and I think about this in my head. I'm like, it feels like Mardi Gras is actually more of the God-inspired celebration than Lent is, because Lent just seems dark and stressful, and where Mardi Gras is just love and laughter.
When I think about it like an overview, knowing what I know now, not from where I was before, I feel like it was like the awakened. They were having fun. They were celebrating the life. They were celebrating the all the things. And then the controllers came in, which at the time was the Catholic Church, and said, no, you have to give these things up and give them to us because we're the caretakers of the good, right?
Yeah.
And then do without. And then we'll give you some morsels back after you've, served your penance. And you're going to be very, very grateful for that because we allowed you to have it back.
Yeah. It's all in mind. And I want to reiterate that people, I mean, I know everybody watching right now, again, we're preaching to the choir, but I'm going to keep saying this over and over and over again because darkness cannot create anything, you guys. Nothing that you see on this world, be it Mardi Gras, be it Hanukkah, be it Lent, be it Easter, be it anything. Darkness didn't create that. God did. Source did. Mm-hmm. But what they can do, what the darkness can do, is the darkness can steal from the light and invert it. Mm-hmm. And that's what we see happening. And so, like I was saying with the whole Tammuz Ishtar story, it's a beautiful story. I know a lot of people in this Great Awakening who have discovered the Tammuz Ishtar story, and they think Tammuz is like a demon. I'm like, no. Magdalene and Yahshua honored the story of they weren't worshiping. They were venerating. There's a difference between showing respect to a metaphoric story. It's like the Ulyssean mysteries. I covered that a while ago, and I want to go do a Ulyssean mystery because it sounded badass. It was the Dimitri Persephone story of falling into hell and resurrecting again, which is all symbolic, you guys. It's all symbolic about you going into your own self and resurrecting your own energy.
And that's ascension. When you go through the layers of the shadows that this world creates, and you get down to the very, very basic root chakra of who we are, and then we start to rebuild based on truth, and we start to ascend because our consciousness is rising and our frequency is rising, and that is the resurrection of us from the darkness.
Yeah.
And it's not a place on a map. It's not a physical thing. It's a being. It's a heightened awareness. It's a state of
right. Just the whole like Antichrist thing too. I think that is Christ consciousness. And exactly. So just the other day I told somebody, I was like, I think Jesus is the Antichrist.
Well, people have said that, and we know that the person Jesus is not someone that actually lived. It was a created story because Jesus is not his name, y'all. If you think that the Bible isn't edited, first of all, that's cognitive dissonance because literally you can just look that up and you can see the different edits. Second of all, I would say, well, the J sound didn't exist back then. Right. So now you see one edit. Why did they change his name? It was Yeshua.
Yeah.
It was Yeshua. And that's what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't really matter what people's names are. It doesn't matter their cultural background, but it matters in the sense that you can see where the lie is once you understand it.
Right.
And yeah, it's all, and that's what Yahshua and Magdalene were teaching. If you like the Gospel of Thomas, which is probably one of the more famous missing books of the Bible. It's just it reads like a bunch of notes. Like there's no beginning, middle, end. There's a linear story. It's just like someone taking notes of things that their teacher was saying. And one thing Yahshua says in that, when they're asking about the kingdom of heaven, and I'm paraphrasing the verse. It's a very famous verse, and I don't know it word for word, so I'm paraphrasing. He says, like, well, if heaven is in the skies, the birds will get there first. If heaven is in the water, the fish will get there first. Heaven is inside of you. Only you have the power to access that. Mm-hmm. And that's what he and Magdalene, we see that in Magdalene's gospel. I have Megan Watterson's translation and commentary here that I went through on my channel, Magdalene's gospel, where she taught this as well. She, for the Magdalene manuscript, I know the church is going to hate to hear this. There's some church folk that are going to hate to hear this. She woke up first. She was Yeshua's teacher.
Yes.
They were the same age. It wasn't like she wasn't a cougar. She went around like cougaring for younger men. They were the same age. But she was his teacher initially and woke him up to the truth. Women just mature fast for the boys. But, But in that time too, there was a lot of there was like a matrilineal line where the women were valued and very important anyway. And so there was a
Yeah.
respect there. It didn't really matter that she was a female, or he was a male, they were respected equally.
And when you think about, the darkness not being able to create anything, it makes perfect sense that they would at that time see who has this following, who has the praise, who has the love, who has the devotion, because we want that energy. We can't create that energy. So we're going to take that energy and we're going to mix it with this other person, this other group that has that, and we're going to create something that everyone can follow. Everyone can follow. And then we're going to make them, have this guilt, shame, blame mentality that if you don't fall in line with that, then you're nothing. And that's how they flipped all the things that were good and totally innocent to things that are bad, things that are not of good intentions, I'll say.
Yeah, it's all inverted. And I will say, out of all the 66 canonized books of the Bible, the Book of Revelation is probably the most accurate.
Yeah.
And it does speak about this, that everything is going to be inverted. Like everything is inverted. And
like
so
it's already happened.
and shit's already happened. That's why I keep like, that is one thing that really makes me laugh hard. Besides the whole like fundamentalists, when they're singing their songs to the Messiah, that makes me giggle now, because I'm like, you're basically creating a porno at this point, because that means a penis. He's not your Messiah, honey. He's Magdalene's. You got your own Messiah. And if you don't have a Messiah, there's plenty of shops where you can go buy one. So there's lots in Atlanta. They're the best kinds of shops. I would going to with girlfriends to those shops. It's hysterical. It's so fun.
Yeah.
Anyway. But also, like, when the Tartarian information came out and I started really diving deep into it, it was shocking at first because that meant nothing we've been told is true. But then I was like, wait a minute. That means we're at the end of the story.
Yeah.
1,000 years of peace has already come. And that's the thing, because we know Gog and Magog, as mentioned in Revolution, was going to be the most bloodiest, hardest battle.
Yeah, what the golden age that we're going into doesn't have a end date.
No, it's an ascension.
Yes. Yes. And it is not for everyone, because people do have free will choice.
Yeah.
And not every person that you walk around with actually has a soul. Some people.
Oh, I know. We're going to be okay. So I have a guest that's coming on, and I just talked to him today. I think we're going to try to film either tomorrow or Thursday. He's going to stay. This guest is going to not show his face and put a fake name up, and we're going to talk about the organic portals, which are people that don't have souls.
Oh, wow. I'm so interested in that, because I sense it sometimes, like when I'm around people. I just go, my best friend and I will both see it at the same time too. She's like, that's not
that's
a
an
soul.
NPC.
Yeah.
That right there is not a soul.
Mm-hmm.
And
once
I don't even know how to explain it really, but yeah.
Once you know that, because that's the big thing that people have not been made aware of. But once you know it, it makes so much sense in their behavior and their lack of behavior, and all the other things, and then they just kind of, for me anyway, they just fall away, like they just don't even exist anymore, because I'm on a completely different frequency than that. Like I don't even recognize that.
Well, I'll give you guys a little teaser, and this person that's coming on, he's also a Law of One expert as well, so he's going to do a show with Catherine Edwards and me later on. The Law of Ones, they're different from psychopaths. Organic people without souls. So they also, organic portals have the lower 3 chakras, but they don't have the upper 4. They have to have the lower 3 triad in order to be in a body, but they don't have the upper 4. So they tend to mimic. They mimic spirituality. They mimic people. And I asked this person, and we can talk about this on the show. I said, what's going to happen when the ascension happens to the people without souls? And he goes, I think they're just going to disintegrate.
Yeah, if it's been explained to me like Avengers Endgame, when he snaps his fingers and they turn to dust.
Oh, I've never seen that, but it's almost like
there's a lot of truth in Marvel movies, I'll tell you that. Yeah. And that is, I think they call it the blip or the event or something. And it was, one of the evil characters from an off-worlder was like, I'm going to save the world by decreasing the population by 50%. In a snap, and
they say that the 50% of the world population is organic portals.
Yes, I know. I'm telling you. So whenever it's symbolic of what they say will happen, and that is like literally with the solar flash is the theory.
Yeah.
It'll be like the snap of the finger, and these people that aren't really whole souls of the light beings in alignment with source, they would just cease to exist because they were only here as like programmable matter with
Yes.
ambition to begin with.
Yep, that's what the law of one says, and they will mimic. So they don't have. They might show emotion, but it's like a mimic. It's different from a psychopath. Psychopaths
It's like the baby doll that you can feed and then you make them poop and cry. Like they do the things, but it's not real.
No, and they will mimic you. So they will mimic the upper chakra. So if and I was like, holy shit, because I've had someone do that to me recently. Like everything was mimicked that I did. Every story was mimicked, and I was like, holy shit. Because they don't have higher selves. So they don't have higher selves. Only people with actual souls have higher selves. They don't have soul contracts, organic portals. They have no soul contract. And they're like empty shells that can do they're like marionettes. And they're always controlled by higher density negative beings.
Yeah, do they know? They're created in the AI, the negative AI of the universe, basically.
Well, do people that don't have souls, do they know they don't have a soul?
From what I understand, no, they don't know.
They don't know.
Yeah. And I can tell you, Angie, you got a soul. So don't freak out.
I know. We know who I was.
Yeah, you got a soul, girl. You can tell when you start to study it. Because I've been looking into it and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, it's totally. And as a yoga teacher, that's really valuable information to me to have as well, because they don't have upper chakras. They don't. They can't. Because the heart on a hatha all the way up, that's all soul based. That's all spirit based. So like when you move into your next incarnation, your lower chakras are going to change a little bit because those are the triad of the three that ground you to the earth or wherever planet you're on. And the upper ones. So literally they're humans. So like law of one, like animals, dogs, cats, they have souls. There are humans walking around that we as humans value human life over animal life, but yet they're animals. I value them equally, to be honest with you. That really spoke volumes to me in the missing books of the Bible, where Yahshua was like, are the animals not your brothers and sisters? Do they not breathe the same air you breathe? You know, God knows every hair on your dog's head, just like he knows every hair on your head. I believe my dog was sent to me. He's a soulmate of mine. So there are animals that have souls, and there are humans that do not.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're different. Again, they're different from psychopaths. And so like the controllers are not organic portals. Right. They are people, they are souls who have really picked the negative path. But they are using, this is a war, you guys, and that's one thing I find comical, because when Gog and Magog happened, basically God was like, all is fair in this time period. Do what you're going to try to do to destroy my people, and we'll see who wins at the end, because I think God knew we would always figure it out anyway. So they brought down these people, and these people are very easily controllable. They get controlled by dark AI or higher density beings, and they're able to do horrible things to people and not really feel guilty about it, because
they have no conscience about it, because they have no consciousness.
Yeah.
It does not exist for them.
Yeah. You can have, we were talking about it to prep for the show. You can have like a family, like even look, and then there's the other element of wanderers, which I think all three of us are wanderers. I think most of the people watching are wanderers. What are wanderers? I believe wanderers are the 144,000 mentioned in the Bible. As Tamara calls them, they're the 5% or 3%, I can't remember which, of earthlings that are like 6th grade souls. These are the people that volunteered, the volunteers that came down to, like Ishtar, that came down to earth. Because at this point, Law of One really speaks about this. This is very important for people watching right now. Now, if you're someone that has real, true emotion and you really feel things and you're empathetic, you are not an organic portal, honey. Right. That's the big thing, is the empathetic, the empathy, the feeling of things. That's so when this time period came around and there was planning, like a military room planning going on, they asked souls. There were some souls that needed to come back karmically because they were there for the fall of Atlantis. I think I was there for the fall of Atlantis, and I think I karmically needed to come back, but I think also volunteered as well. I think a lot of us, same thing. And that's the hard thing, is these dark souls that are also in mirror on the same side. Darkness can't create anything, it can only steal from the light and invert or mirror. So you have wanderer souls of the light, and you also have souls from the darkness that came down to match that of the wanderers. Only problem is the darkness has had like a jump start at this, because like in my situation, people knew who I was before I knew who I was on the dark side.
Mm-hmm.
And I've had to figure it out while going through this battle, but that's just how it is. And the organic portals get thrown in as like a wild card to mess with you and to take you off balance.
Yeah, because the people with eyes to see and ears to hear, like we like to say, you know, whenever a true soul being starts to wake up and realize who they are and the power that they have, and then they start taking that power back, we become the most powerful beings in the universe. Like angels don't have free will choice. Angels get a book of instructions. Like, this is your wheelhouse. You're going to help with addictions. You're going to help with this. You're the guardian angel of the person born over these 4 days. This is your job. If they never call your name, you don't get an action because you don't have free will choice. They have to call you in, and when you do, this is what you're going to do. And then you have us humans who either volunteered to come down because we're star seeds or whatever the case may be. We're divine souls, or we're just whole souls of the light, and we can take all of that in. We have free will choice. We can decide to go to the light and leave the darkness behind. We can cut the AI attachment. So we're not controllable.
Right. No.
As long as we come out of that matrix thinking and get off the hamster wheel, then we are the most powerful. That's why they want to control us, and that's why they don't want us having the memory and the fear and our power. Because as soon as we do, that's why we won.
And I see this in my youngest daughter too. She deals with a whole lot of they try to control her, and she just sees through it all, and she is uncontrollable. Well, she's uncontrollable. She does not care about, about looking a certain way or fitting in a certain way. She says, I'm here for this reason.
She's already ascended beyond their level.
Well, and that's what and again, my guest coming on, I keep wanting to say the name, but I know he wants to keep his identity private. Kids, I think, is under the age of 25, or maybe it's 20, 25, something like that, already born in their fourth density bodies. So kids today are already born in a fourth density body. It's not active yet. Now, with that being said, here's the cool thing. So these kids came down from fourth density. We came down from fifth or sixth density, because we're the ones that our soul is old enough to be able to go through the changes that are, we can feel, I know I look tired today. Like we are in a human body. Like, we're feeling the effects of having a nervous system, of having to sleep, of having to eat. Our soul is like, let's go, 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 go. But our body's like, hold on, sister, I'm tired. So our bodies though, and I think we already are they're starting to go through some of these changes. I was talking to Gordon from Enough is Enough about this. Like, you look at a lot of the people of the light who are on the truther community, and they're starting to look younger. They're starting to look more vibrant. And so our souls are actually strong enough to handle that evolution of the body changing. Whereas the kids coming in now, they are fourth density. They're not third density, but they're already in the body that basically, just like that flick of that switch, the body will go into fourth density. So, all the souls who aren't wanderers, I'll just put this out there before we get to that show. So if you guys have any questions about that, all the souls who are not wanderers, or are not organic portals, so that's a percentage, you're considered a high priority soul. So what that means, according to the law of one, so for the wanderers have already ascended many times before. And so this is a same, not our first rodeo, basically. I think
been there, done that kind of thing. Been there, done that.
Got up in my Cosmo closet, got a bunch of t-shirts and some postcards. So this is why some of us felt the need to get on YouTube, because we like, that's that Ishtar, like, I have a little bit of a memory of something that I have to do. The other souls who are high priority, it means that you are literally at the brink of harvesting. Now, I hate that they use the word harvesting, because to me that sounds like a Stephen King novel. it's basically graduating. Like you're at that point where you are not able, you have your credits, so you can now graduate to fourth density positive. And so you had first priority to come to this planet as it ascended. It's all very, very, very fascinating. With that being said, though, I will say, so someone like Nicole, Angie, myself, most of the people watching right now, if you are a wanderer, or if you are highly of the light, you are like filet mignon to the darkness. And if they,
moth to the flame.
Yes. And if they can get you to turn negative, it gives them more powerful, because that's how powerful you are. All right. So if you get attacked a lot, I'll never forget. So my boyfriend's seen me get physically attacked a lot by paranormal stuff, which is really great because he's agreed to witness for me to start some of my affidavits, which is wild that I have to have a witness for this kind of stuff. I'm like, this is like X-Files meets Murder, She Wrote. Like, this is fantastic. But I was standing in the shower. This is like a few months ago. I got out of the shower. Obviously, I was naked. My back was to the doors open. He was standing in the hallway. My back was to him. I was like drying my face off so he could see him. And he looked up and he said, just this slash went over my back. And actually, I might put the picture in, all these slashes when I'm editing. And then some of them started to bleed. The picture I have, they're not bleeding. And he started laughing. He was like, I swear to God, ever since I've known you, you are literally like a magnet. This is better than reality TV. Like, he was like, the shit that happens in this apartment because you're here. So if you're someone has had a lot of attacks, I know trust me, I know it sucks. Thank you, Nicole. She talked me off the ledge yesterday because I was like, this is awful. It just means that you're high priority. You're not high priority. You're already there. And so they want to feed off of that, and they want to try to piss you off enough to turn you. So don't do it. Just hold.
That's what I feel like. I was telling you whenever I had that fall. It's been horrible. It's been so hard.
Yeah.
And that's not the first time. I keep having all these things happen. And I wake up with the scratches and weird bruising. Like, you're like, what? Like, what in the world? Like, nothing happened to me yesterday. Why do I have a bruise on my stomach? Why, yeah. So, yeah.
We know.
And also people that I run into that I know are from the dark attack me, so yeah.
It's funny because when you get to a certain frequency, I know for me, I can walk in a place where I'm going to see one person, but there's maybe 20 in there. This happens time and time again. And the light beings will just gravitate toward me. Like, they don't know me, but they just want to hear what I have to say. And I'm like, oh, I haven't met you yet, whatever. And then the dark are literally like become part of the wallpaper because they're like, can't get away from me fast enough. And I love making them uncomfortable because I just have this big light frequency and I'm all about it. Yeah. And I'm, and the more uncomfortable I make you, the happier I am. And you know what laughter does?
Yeah,
they just disappear.
Well, and that's what makes me that yesterday. And I have to thank you, Nicole, and so many people. I was having such a rough day yesterday, and so many people like stepped out of the woodwork and like, no, we've been like fighting for you, praying for you. And I'm like, thank you so much, because that support really means a lot to me. And I was like, thinking, because I know the contract there was a contract that was actually taken out on me. I know about, like, there's so much. I can't wait to one day write a book about everything, because there's just so much I can't talk about that. Anyway. Most people in my position that have had that same are dead, and I'm not dead. I'm still on YouTube and I'm still doing it, and I'm still out there. No matter how many times they spellcast my channel, no matter how much money is stolen from me, no matter how many times they come and they wreak havoc in my life, I'm still here and I'm still doing it, and I'm doing it with sass, with humor, with laughter, and that must really piss them off. Because I am on the side of God. And so, and I'll never forget when it got really bad, God saying, like, you're not going to die. I'm not going to let you die. And this needs to be exposed, and you're strong enough to take it. You're strong enough to take it. And so, just be very careful, guys, and pay attention to that. Pay attention to the way your gut reacts around people. It's like I was saying with Kelly from Nexium, like, if you have to walk on eggshells around somebody, that's usually a pretty good sign that they're not the person for you. to be in your life,
Yeah.
whether that's a friend, a boss, a boyfriend, whatever. You should be able to be yourself, and you should be able to laugh and have fun, and just enjoy this life. And yeah, the darkness, I will tell you, I think I told you this, Nicole. I didn't tell a lot of people that this happened to me yesterday. And again, I'm really grateful that I have somebody in the house to witness these things. I was taking a bar class yesterday, and this is the second time that this has happened, where it literally, from what my boyfriend says, looks like somebody came in and like pushes me. Like it looks like my body just gets thrown. Well, I was doing this class and I saw the face of the head of the coven flash in my mind. And then all of a sudden I felt a hand grab my right leg, and something told me in my head, fall to the left. And so I pushed my body over to the left. And my ankle was swollen all day yesterday. It didn't hurt though. And my boyfriend was like, that literally looked like somebody came in and grabbed your leg. And I said this morning, I told him this morning, I said, I've been really thinking about it. And whoever told me, maybe it was Magdalene, somebody told me to fall to the left. And I think that is what stopped my ankle from breaking. Because that's what they were trying to do, was break my ankle. I know that. I just know that's what they were trying to do. Because I was telling you, Nicole, I think a part of the strength has been the exercise. When Anna did Reiki on me, she said, I keep picking that up, that yoga has saved your life. And I was like, in more ways than one, it's given me physical strength, literal physical strength to fight this off. And I need it right now. And that's what they've been trying. They've tried to do that a couple of times, to stop me from actually continuing to maintain my physical strength. So joke's on you.
Yeah.
My ankle, I did another bar class this morning. I didn't do the yoga because I want to make sure, I didn't want to put my leg behind my head. I want to make sure my ankle was stable. So I just did bar again and I was fine. So there's no bruising. It's just a little bit swollen. That's it. Joke's on you. And how pathetic is that? I mean, really, how pathetic is that?
They're so desperate. They're just really so desperate.
So desperate. You can't kill me. You've tried. I know how many times you've tried. I've seen it. I've seen everything. I know who you've contacted. I know about the hits. So does the military. You've stolen all my money. But guess
and again, what? You're winning. You're still here. You're of the light. You have divine protection. We have divine protection. We have divine guidance. And that is the key. That is the key. If this is happening to you, first of all, you're not crazy. And second of all, there are things you can do to protect yourself, and there are things that you can do just being you. You don't need anything from the outside. It's all within.
Yeah.
It is all within us to be powerful and fight that off, because we are of the light.
Do you have an episode on your channel, Nicole, where you go through all the steps that people can do? So I will put that. I'll put Nicole's.
It's healing disclosures on YouTube and Rumble.
All right. I will put that down in the description box, guys, because I want you to go watch that on Give Nicole's channel, because we need all those. It's not, I mean, Nicole and I were talking about this last night too. It's not about numbers. I don't really care how many numbers. It's not about that. I don't consider, this is not a platform to get famous off of or anything like that. It's not about that. It's basically a battlefield. And so make sure you're subscribing though, and you're sharing our videos, because that's what gets the information out there that we're all contributing to. So that's the only reason why the numbers matter. I mean, YouTube could go tomorrow.
Yeah.
If YouTube went tomorrow, I'd be fine, because I'm secure within myself, So, but yeah, I mean, just laugh. That's why I went to bed just kind of like laughing last night, because I realized after such a hard day yesterday, I was like, oh my God, I got emotional. I was like, there are so many people out there we're all in each other's corners, and we're all like praying for each other and helping each other out. I mean, it gets me emotional.
Yeah. And I get more support from this community a lot of times than friends that are, right down the road.
Because I like to say that it's our frequency that calls in our like-hearted, our soul family, and it's that soul connection that makes you understand on a different level, on a soul level, in your gut, in your heart, that you are on the same path. And you're fighting the same fight. It doesn't matter where you are in the world. It doesn't matter what your age, your race. None of that matters. Your soul is literally fighting to win, first of all, your own sovereignty and take your power back. And then when you do that, that's going to help lift up people around you that are still on the fence. They don't know they're searching. They don't know what truth is. And then they see you and they're like, wait a minute, what did you do? Like, you're unaffected by all this bullshit. I'm like, girl, let me tell you the truth. Let me give you some truth medicine. It's great.
Yes.
You know,
The real story is so much better. But yes, and Nicole is right. If you've been attacked or if you're feeling you're not alone, I mean, I have the Signal group on Signal, the Shadow Work support group. But people in that group, that's what I love about that group. It's not. There's no boundary on. Only thing you can't do is name call. That's it. Or abuse people. That's it. But you can talk. You can get in that group, and there are so many incredible people in that group that are just amazing, and you guys can get in there and talk to each other and support each other, and no one's going to call you a name. People are just going to love you and support you and send you prayers. And so if that's something you need to do, even if you're not doing the shadow work, join the support group. We'd love
yeah,
to.
that's why I have my Telegram page, Healing Disclosures on Telegram, because I felt the need to create a safe space where people that feel and think and have the same journey that I had need a community, because in their own 3D life, they're like on an island. But I want them to know that there's other people that, while our journeys are very individual, they're also very synchronized and very similar. And we all tend to go through the same attacks, one way, shape, or form. And we come through that with in our community helping each other, and we can recognize it easier, and we see through the bullshit faster. When you feel like it's just you against the world, that's very daunting. But whenever you're, in a room of 40 or 50 or whatever, and you're like, all of us combined we definitely win every day. We win little battles every day.
I mean, the fact that they resorted to yesterday trying to break my ankle because nothing else has worked.
To keep you from exercising.
To keep me from exercising. Because I figured that out a long time ago, because I am very fit for my age, and it's been years in the making, like 17 years in the making. I was like, oh, part of it was my own journey as well, but it was to make me very strong to be able to physically take it. And I was like, they've tried to kill me. I know how many times they've tried to kill me. I know. I've been told. I know. They've done all these things to me. They stole all my money, everything, but I've still been supported.
Here you are.
Yeah. I'm still here. My bills are still paid.
Here you are.
I had a great breakfast this morning from Panera, like awesome avocado toast sandwich with some yogurt. Like, my nails are still done, like.
What's that song? I'm still standing.
The Elton, yes, yeah. I know people are going to comment, but is it Lizzo, Lizo?
Lizzo. I do my hair.
I love it. There's a bar class that I'll do where she plays that song. I know people are going to comment about that, whatever. I like the song.
I like it.
My relationship to the song. If you like the Rolling Stones, if you like Led Zeppelin, you get down to that music because it's about your relationship. It's your memories. You're not the one doing nefarious stuff, but music is music. Remember, hello, hello, hello. Darkness can't create anything. Only the light can. You think the devil created music? If you think the devil created music, you are giving that devil far too much credit. God created music. You best believe that our God loves a good rock concert. So, enjoy it. Enjoy your life. Enjoy Mardi Gras. Have fun. That's the thing that pisses them off the most. So it pisses them off the most. Listen, this coven, I don't watch them. I blocked them all a long time ago, but people will send me pictures. They look like shit right now. They look like shit. And all of us, we don't.
No.
So,
Enough
said. So, guys, I just want to wish everybody this is going to be airing on Wednesday. I hope if you celebrated Mardi Gras that you had an incredible, wonderful, fun, happy. Nicole, have a great Fat Tuesday today with your family. Enjoy, have fun, laugh. If you didn't celebrate Mardi Gras, but you're like, damn, I missed a good time. Go ahead and re-celebrate it. Make Lent your a 40-day celebration of Mardi Gras in your house. Decorate with the beautiful colors of Mardi Gras and celebrate. There's no need to you can bend the rules. It's all in love, and maybe this year for Easter, just appreciate the fact that you as a human being have the ability to ascend. You have that, and that's what that's about. Is your ascension. It's not about some other dude's ascension. It's about yours. That's what Easter is about. It's your ascension. You're the main story. You're the main character of this story.
Yeah. I sent you some pictures. I wanted to say this before we got off because Mardi Gras was canceled 2020, and then they were allowed to come back 2021, but they didn't have real parades, and so. A business that had always decorated floats, that was their main income source for a lot of artists in New Orleans. were painting and creating the floats and everything. They needed a new spin on what they knew how to do. And so that's how house floats started. And so people would, if you can dream it up, they would create it. And I sent all the information to Brice. There are these beautiful homes that are decorated like a float. And so they have a lot of fairies in the yard, and they have banners over the second story. And they created Mardi Gras in their own space. And so then a lot of people, whenever the parades were canceled, they would just have the house parties, and they had their house floats. And then they did the same thing, because everyone has a costume and everyone has their beads or whatever. And then they just get up on their own balcony and throw them to their own little group. And so the moral of that story is, don't let people who make decisions based on false information ruin your fun and take your light from you, because that's a celebration of love and life and family. And that's exactly what they did. They said, it doesn't matter, we don't have to have a parade down the street, but we're going to celebrate anyway. And that really resonated with me. I want to make sure everyone
that's amazing. And I'm going to put all those pictures up. I have all of them. So you guys, that's amazing. So go decorate your house, go decorate your living room. Just do it all, you guys. Have fun.
Do what feels good in your soul, and you'll be all right. Yeah. Unless you don't have a soul, then you're fucked anyway.
If you don't have a soul, you're just gonna evaporate anyway. So it's like who says Halloween has to be for kids dressing up? If you're an adult, you want to dress up, go dress up, have fun. Why? This is your body. This is your Shakti. Your body is the Shakti of your soul. So to express that anything you want, you guys. And Magdalene has been bugging me this whole time. She keeps wanting me to tell people that chocolate isn't bad. So,
because I gave up chocolate for Lent when I was a child, Maggie, I still eat dark chocolate.
She's like, just go eat you some chocolate. She's like, enjoy it. I think what she keeps saying to Alan Watts, and I think I said it before this episode, someone asked Alan Watts, what's the point of life? He's a philosopher that brought a lot of Eastern philosophy to the West. He said, the point of life is to be alive. Just be fucking alive. Go enjoy your chocolate. Just don't hurt anyone in the process.
Yeah.
Get your milkshakes if you want a milkshake. Get your French fries. Do what you got to do, and enjoy it. And when you exercise, that's what I love about exercise. You get to actually feel the power of your body. You get to feel the sweat and the body being alive. That's what I love about it. I don't exercise to punish myself. I exercise to celebrate myself. So celebrate yourself. Do your hair. Do your nails. Put your makeup on if you want to. Do you, boo? This is your experience. And just because we signed up for a war doesn't mean this war can't be fabulous. So
that's right. That's right.
All right, you guys. Well, once again, all of the channel information will be down in the description box below. You guys, make sure you're subscribed, and I can't wait to have both Angie and Nicole back on for some more deep dives and deep discussions into these interesting times we're living in. But at the end of the day, you guys, go and have fun. Just make sure you're having fun. We love you all.
Happy Mardi Gras.
Happy Mardi Gras. Happy Fat Tuesday. Happy Ash Wednesday. Happy Ishtar. All that jazz. Just go.
All the happies.
All the happies. Just laugh and have a grand old time. If you're drinking, make sure you get an Uber, though. Go enjoy the alcohol. Alcohol can be fun sometimes. I like myself a good cocktail every now and again. Get yourself an Uber, though. So, all right, you guys. We love you, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye.